Most people think they'll know when something is wrong with their heart. They picture a dramatic moment, a sudden crushing pain in the chest, a clear, unmistakable signal that something serious is happening. And they've told themselves, maybe without even realizing it, that as long as they're not having that moment, their heart is probably fine. But what if the research tells a completely different story? What if some of the most dangerous changes happening in your heart right now produce no symptoms at all? What if the warning signs, when they do appear, look nothing like what you've been taught to expect, especially if you're a woman? And what if one of the most common assumptions people make about aging and the heart is actually getting in the way of the one thing that could protect them most? Stay with me, because today we are going into the heart, literally, with information drawn directly from the National Institute on Aging, one of the most credible and carefully researched health resources in the country. And about 2/3 of the way through, I'm going to share something about the connection between your heart and your brain that I think is going to genuinely reframe how you think about both. Let's start with something that almost never gets explained clearly. Your heart is a muscle, a strong, remarkable, tireless muscle, about the size of your clenched fist, that has been beating every single day of your life without you having to think about it once. It pumps blood to your lungs to pick up oxygen, and then pushes that oxygen-rich blood out through arteries to every part of your body. An internal electrical system keeps the rhythm coordinated and steady. And like every other part of your body, it changes with age. Some of those changes are normal, some are not. And knowing the difference is one of the most important things you can do for your long-term health. Here is where most people get it wrong. They assume that any change in how the heart feels or functions is just aging. They dismiss the occasional flutter. They chalk the breathlessness on the stairs up to being out of shape. They tell themselves that tiredness is just life, that the swelling in their feet at the end of the day is just from standing too long, that the feeling that their heart skipped a beat is just stress. Sometimes those explanations are right, but sometimes they're not. And the research is clear that knowing which is which requires more than self-diagnosis. Let's walk through what the National Institute on Aging tells us actually happens to the heart as we age. Because this is information most people have never been given clearly. As you get older, the heart's ability to speed up during physical activity or stress becomes more limited. That's normal. Your resting heart rate, the number of beats per minute when you're sitting quietly, doesn't change significantly with healthy aging. But your heart's capacity to rapidly accelerate when needed does diminish over time. The chambers of the heart may increase in size as we age, but the walls of those chambers also thicken. And here's the counterintuitive part. Despite the heart getting larger overall, a thicker wall actually reduces the amount of blood that can be held inside the chamber at one time. The heart is bigger, but it's holding less. That thickening of the heart wall also increases the risk of a condition called atrial fibrillation. You may have heard this term. Atrial fibrillation is an irregular heart rhythm, a common one in older adults, and it matters because it significantly increases the risk of stroke. The valves that control blood flow between the heart's chambers can also become thicker and stiffer over time. Stiffer valves can restrict blood flow out of the heart, or they can become leaky. Either way, fluid can begin to accumulate in the lungs, making breathing difficult, or in the legs, feet, and abdomen, causing swelling that's easy to attribute to other causes. None of this is meant to alarm you. It's meant to inform you. Because these are the changes happening in the background, quietly, gradually, and understanding them is what allows you to have the right conversations with your doctor, ask the right questions, and recognize the right signs. Now let's talk about heart disease itself. Because this is a term that gets used broadly, and most people don't fully understand what it actually covers. Heart disease is not one condition. It's an umbrella term for a range of conditions that affect the heart's structure and function. Arteriosclerosis, sometimes called hardening of the arteries, refers to increased stiffness in the large blood vessels. This stiffness contributes to high blood pressure, which becomes more common as we age, and which, left unmanaged, causes a cascade of problems for the heart, the brain, the kidneys, and the eyes. Atherosclerosis is related, but different. This is the slow buildup of fatty deposits, called plaques, inside the walls of the coronary arteries, which are the arteries that supply blood to the heart muscle itself. The research is specific about this. Atherosclerosis is common, but it is not a normal part of aging. It is a disease process, and it can also develop in the arteries supplying the brain and the legs, increasing stroke risk and causing circulation problems far from the heart. Angina is chest pain or discomfort caused by reduced blood flow to the heart, often due to plaque buildup. It can feel like pressure or squeezing in the chest, and it can also be felt in the neck, jaw, or left arm. It's important to know that angina can sometimes be triggered only by physical exertion or emotional stress, meaning it may not appear at rest, even when the underlying problem is significant. And a heart attack occurs when blood flow to the heart is blocked completely, when the heart muscle stops receiving the oxygen and nutrients it needs to function. Time is critical in a heart attack. The faster blood flow is restored, the less damage occurs. This is not a wait-and-see situation. It is always an emergency. This next detail changes everything about how you recognize a heart attack. Most people still carry the image of a heart attack as a crushing, unmistakable chest pain. And that is a real presentation. But the research makes clear that chest pain is not always the main warning sign. And this is especially true for women. Women are more likely than men to experience a heart attack with symptoms like shortness of breath, fatigue and weakness, nausea or stomach upset, anxiety and pain in the shoulder, back, or arm, rather than the classic crushing chest pressure. Women's symptoms are frequently more diffuse, more easily attributed to other things, and therefore more frequently dismissed, sometimes by the women themselves, sometimes by medical professionals. The National Institute on Aging is unambiguous. If you experience any of these symptoms suddenly, call 911. Don't wait. Don't drive yourself. Don't sit and see if it passes. The symptoms to know include crushing chest pressure or pain or tingling radiating to the shoulders, arms, neck, jaw, or back, shortness of breath at rest or during activity, fainting or sudden dizziness, rapid or irregular heartbeat, cold sweats, nausea or stomach upset, unusual fatigue, and anxiety that seems to come out of nowhere. These symptoms can also be associated with conditions other than heart attack, but that is not a reason to wait and see. That is a reason to get checked quickly. The only way to know is to be evaluated by medical professionals who have the tools to tell you. We are about 65% of the way through today's conversation, and I want to stop here and say directly, this next part is why watching until the end genuinely matters. Because I want to talk about something that the research from the National Institute on Aging makes explicit, and that most people in the heart health conversation never hear. The health of your heart and the health of your brain are not separate stories. Some of the same risk factors that increase your risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, poor cholesterol levels, certain lifestyle factors, are also linked to cognitive health, including the risk of dementia later in life. The same arteries that carry blood to your heart also carry blood to your brain. When those arteries are damaged, stiffened, or narrowed by plaque, the brain suffers too. Not in a distant theoretical future, but in measurable, documented ways that researchers can observe. And here is what the National Institute on Aging says directly. Controlling your blood pressure may help delay or lower your risk of cognitive decline. Taking better care of your overall cardiovascular health can help protect both your heart and your brain. Let that land for a moment. The steps you take today for your heart are also steps you're taking for your memory, your clarity, your ability to stay mentally sharp for the decades ahead. These are not two separate goals. They are one. And this reframe matters because for many people, heart health feels abstract. It's about a number on a screen at a doctor's office. It's about a medication they may or may not remember to take. It's about changes they may or may not actually believe are necessary. But when you understand that your cardiovascular health is also your brain health, that every walk you take, every meal you choose, every blood pressure reading you monitor is also an investment in who you'll be mentally and cognitively 5, 10, 20 years from now, the motivation shifts. This is about staying yourself, staying present, staying capable of being the person your family knows and needs. That is worth protecting. Now let's talk about what heart failure actually means, because this term frightens people, and the fear often comes from a misunderstanding. Heart failure does not mean the heart has stopped. It does not mean it's about to stop. Heart failure means that one or both sides of the heart are not pumping as effectively as the body needs. It's a weakening of function, not a stopping of function. When the left side of the heart is affected, oxygen-rich blood can't be pumped efficiently to the rest of the body. When the right side is affected, blood can't be sent to the lungs effectively to pick up oxygen. The symptoms, shortness of breath, swelling in the feet, ankles, legs, and abdomen, are the body's response to that reduced efficiency. Heart failure develops over time, usually as a consequence of other conditions that have been present and unmanaged. High blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, coronary artery disease, or a history of heart attacks. This is important because it means that heart failure, in many cases, is not inevitable. It is the downstream consequence of conditions that can often be identified, monitored, and managed much earlier. The research also points to something worth knowing specifically if you or someone you love is of African, Hispanic, or Caribbean descent. A protein called amyloid can build up in the heart muscle and cause heart failure, and this condition is more common in older adults from these backgrounds. If it's identified early, treatment may be available. This is the kind of detail that simply may not come up without a proactive conversation with your doctor, which is one more reason why regular checkups matter and why knowing your own risk landscape matters. Let's bring this all together now with what you can actually do. The research from the National Institute on Aging is specific and practical about what keeps the heart healthy as we age. And I want to give you these actions not as a checklist that makes you feel overwhelmed, but as a framework that makes you feel capable. Because you have more influence over this than you may have been told. First, stay physically active. The research recommends aiming for at least 150 minutes of physical activity per week, which breaks down to about 20 to 30 minutes most days. And it names both aerobic exercise and resistance training, also called strength training, as beneficial for heart health. Not one or the other, both. Aerobic activity, walking, swimming, cycling, works the heart muscle directly. Resistance training supports muscle mass, metabolism, and cardiovascular function in ways that complement aerobic exercise. But the most important message is the one the research makes explicit. Any physical activity is better than none. If 150 minutes feels like too much right now, start where you are. 10 minutes of walking is not nothing. It is something. And something, consistently, builds toward more. Always talk with your doctor about what types of activity are appropriate for your specific health situation. Second, monitor your blood pressure and cholesterol. And don't wait until you feel something wrong to do it. High blood pressure is called a silent condition for a reason. It often produces no symptoms until it has already caused damage. The research is clear that regular monitoring, even when you feel healthy, is essential as we age. Know your numbers, track them over time, and have an honest conversation with your doctor about what they mean and what, if anything, to do about them. Third, take diet seriously, but take it one change at a time. The research points toward eating more fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and fiber-rich foods, and reducing saturated fats, added sugars, and salt. As we get older, the research notes that our bodies become more sensitive to sodium, which means salt has a more pronounced effect on blood pressure and fluid retention than it may have earlier in life. This doesn't mean eliminating everything you enjoy. It means being intentional about the balance. The DASH eating plan, Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, is specifically designed for heart health and worth looking into if you want a structured starting point. Fourth, get enough sleep. This one surprises people. Sleep is not just rest. It is an active physiological process during which the body regulates blood pressure, repairs tissue, and consolidates a range of essential functions. The research links poor sleep quality to increased risk of heart disease, and it acknowledges that sleep patterns change as we age. Falling asleep and staying asleep can become genuinely harder. If sleep is a struggle for you, that is a legitimate medical conversation to have with your doctor, not simply something to accept. Fifth, manage the conditions you already have. Diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol are each independently linked to heart disease risk. Managing them, through a combination of lifestyle, monitoring, and medication when appropriate, is not just about controlling numbers. It's about reducing the cumulative burden on a heart that is already navigating the natural changes of aging. A word about alcohol. The research notes that as we age, alcohol consumption can worsen existing health conditions and interact dangerously with certain medications. This is worth a direct conversation with your doctor if alcohol is a regular part of your life. And a word about smoking. If you smoke, quitting remains one of the most significant things you can do for your heart health at any age. The research is unambiguous that quitting smoking, even later in life, reduces risk. The benefit is not reserved for the young. It is available to anyone who stops. Finally, stress. The research names stress management explicitly as a component of heart health. Chronic stress keeps the body in a state of physiological activation that is hard on the cardiovascular system over time. Activities like meditation, regular movement, meaningful social connection, and talking with trusted friends or family about what's weighing on you are not soft suggestions. They are research-supported strategies with real cardiovascular implications. Here is the core of what I want you to carry from today. Your heart is changing as you age. Some of those changes are normal and expected. Others are the beginning of conditions that, if identified and managed, don't have to define the rest of your life. The research from the National Institute on Aging is clear that heart disease is a major cause of disability that can limit activity and erode quality of life. But it's equally clear that there is a substantial amount within your control. Regular checkups, knowing your blood pressure and cholesterol numbers, movement that challenges your heart in a good way, dietary choices that support your arteries over time, adequate sleep, stress management, and when warning signs appear, taking them seriously, immediately, without waiting to see if they resolve on their own. This is not about being consumed by your health. It's about giving your heart the attention it has earned after decades of working for you without complaint. And when you protect your heart, remember what the research tells us. You are also protecting your brain, your clarity, your memory, your ability to remain fully present in your own life. That is a goal worth working toward. One step, one choice, one conversation with your doctor at a time. In the next video, I want to take you into something that connects directly to what we've covered today: sleep. Specifically, what the aging brain and aging heart need from sleep, what gets in the way of that as we get older, and what the research says about the specific, practical strategies that actually help. Because sleep is one of the most underestimated levers in long-term health, and most people have never been given clear, honest information about how to use it. If you want to keep receiving conversations like this one, grounded in real research, delivered with clarity and respect, subscribe. That's what we're building here, one important topic at a time. Thank you for being here. Take care of your heart, take care of yourself, and take care of the people who are counting on you to still be standing, strong, and clear for a long time to come.